Welcome to Let's Go Indigo. I'm your host, Isaac Holtz, and on a good day, Indigo Ike. So, I have been wanting to do an episode on Charlie Kirk from about the beginning of when it really erupted in the culture. I actually didn't know who Charlie Kirk was. A friend had sent me the video of him getting assassinated, and which was quite jarring. And I quickly not really learned who Charlie Kirk was, but learned how everybody felt about him. And it was clear there's kind of three camps. There's the camp that really loved Charlie and was quite shocked and hurt by his death, and then in that camp was upset at the other camp, which reacted fairly coldly, was even perhaps glad to see him die, and at best just didn't care and thought, yeah, good, he'll go away from the public image. And then I think there's a third camp, which I'd like to think that perhaps I'm in, and tries to stay a bit more neutral or objective to some degree, and then also just willing to learn and just see what the truth is about the situation. I don't know the truth about it. I don't know the reality of what happened and why he was murdered. I don't even know the real truth about these camps that I speak about. But I thought I would jump on and share some thoughts. I initially was going to meet with a friend, and we were going to discuss who's a friend who is very skilled at navigating the green world, which I'm not always. And so I thought I wanted to take as high a perspective as possible to talk about this cultural moment more than Charlie himself. And I'll give a brief analysis of how I see Charlie, but I'll give a brief description of how I see these camps, and I think that'll be enough for today. We were going to do that joint talk, and we decided to pause, partly because this channel is public, and it's a very charged topic. At least at that point, it really was, and things have calmed down hopefully a little bit here now, and we didn't want anything we would say to be not just offensive, but trigger somebody in a way that not that we felt that would cause any kind of action toward us, but just the energetic aspect. We didn't want to enter into the world where anything we might say off the cuff and just informed as we were would be just hit somebody hard that might really care about the situation, and it not go well for that viewer. Anyway, Charlie Kirk. I've since have tried to learn a bit more about him, and from what I see, I believe he's actually a very kind, decent person, and people clearly disagreed with certain aspects of his beliefs and his ideas, but he clearly was not, in my mind, a destructive, not a contributing person of society. There was certainly only certain videos that I saw or certain things that he said that I've gotten into, but in his day-to-day actions, it seems to me that he is a decent person. And so him being killed is a real shame, because he does seem like a promising and a positive public person willing to get into the public sphere. And I think we need more people, regardless of your attitude, to enter that world. And I'm trying in this small way here. In terms of his development, I would put Charlie, from what I saw, a kind of late amber, early orange, and then clearly very strong orange in his ability to organize and grow his I wouldn't call it businesses or what you would say, but his political teams and whatever his mission in life, he was very successful at growing that. So I would put that kind of an orange. And then I think truly, if you looked at some videos enough, you'd see that he had a green nuance to be sensitive to people, sensitive enough even while holding firm to his own individual beliefs that I would say are more rooted in a late amber, early orange. And I believe it's that late amber, early orange, usually when I would see him frame things in a very specific Christian way of just his worldview of the world. And that language would lead me to believe that I would put him at a late amber, early orange development from a certain part of himself, certain line. And it's those beliefs, I believe, that really trigger and concern those who either are green and really are highly developed and have a pluralistic worldview that is very, very at odds with an amber worldview, and those who are actually amber or below, who have adopted a version of the green values. And the camp that does not like Charlie, I believe most of what you see are people speaking out who come from and more or less amber themselves, and they're just not in the same amber as Charlie, and so they're a different group. Amber is kind of that group-centric, black and white, right and wrong, our group, your group. Our group deserves care, your group does not. And I think that more or less, most people, if I was to be generous of what I'm seeing online, tend to be at best mostly amber, but they have some version. Either they're amber and they're with Charlie, or they're amber and they not with Charlie. And then within that umbrella, there are tons and tons of people who are mostly below amber, who are red. Obviously, killing somebody is a red act. You could kill someone in amber, and it's not in your group, and you may feel like you have the right to do so, or that your group care matters more than an individual life. Orange and above is a little harder to kill. We could talk about that in a different episode. But within those two camps, with Charlie, against Charlie, I think there are plenty of individuals who may not go to the extreme of a red kind of killing somebody, but they would definitely be happy to see somebody killed, or they would be so angry at the other side for having a worldview. It just gets really messy when we get to the red level. I personally love swimming in red. I play street basketball here in New York City. Things get very tense. They can get to a point where somebody has a weapon or gets dangerous, but there is a positive side to red. There's an unhealthy side to red, and I see that enough there alone. But we all have some version of red within us, as long as we've grown to red or above. And any adult, any real human in this world that is functioning in society definitely has grown through red. But some people, and myself included, we can get stuck at red, and so we have shadows and we have identifications with that level. And so our behavior can be driven from red, even though we have parts of ourselves that are more developed. And so when something like this in the public eye happens, our red can really come out. And I think that initial week there was a lot of that from both sides. Anger at losing someone they cared about, anger, disgust at somebody they didn't agree with. And so to me, using the integral lens, it makes sense of that kind of cultural reaction to what happened a few weeks ago. That may be enough for now. That kind of gets the conversation started. I could speak a lot more about how I see Green really, because they've grown out of stages that set their individual red self aside. Red was really tamed at amber, and then orange really is trying to achieve in the world. So a lot of times, orange individuals set aside their own deeper levels, whether it be magenta or red, to achieve something and be successful in the modern world. And so there's a move, and I just recognize it from myself, and I've seen it in some of the integral literature, that green tends to attempt to integrate those earlier stages. They tend to fight against the orange and the amber because they felt that they closed off and cut off all the good parts of their individual self that got left behind. So there's a project from green to re-own red, re-own some magenta, and in that project, it appears that the green stage wasn't quite successfully able to integrate it, and often went too far with red, and it became what we would call the mean green meme. Red can often be really mean. And so I think what we're seeing a lot in our culture today is, whether they're actual green or adopted the green values, they've also adopted the kind of meanness that can come from the green developmental wave. So that being said, for now, an integral teal worldview hopefully can emerge more, and I would wager would be more successful at integrating the good aspects of each of these stages. And that's primarily, if only, because they're aware that these stages do occur. And so if anybody out there comes from some of a green level and is concerned about these stages and this hierarchy, we can tease all that out. We can call them waves. We can call them holarchical circles. But if we ignore the notion that there are structures of development that emerge and change and evolve, and in each of those steps along the way have certain characteristics, if we ignore that reality, then we're perhaps more likely to mismanage our integration of these earlier stages. Okay. Well, what do you think? Don't worry about subscribing. Don't worry about liking. If you would, please do those things. But please, if this lights you up, if it hits home, if you have some more to say, there's plenty I've left out. Hit me up in the comments. Hit me up privately. There's plenty of ways to do that. And I'd love to engage in the conversation. All right. Be well, and I wish you well on your developmental journey.